Before you scroll away, ask yourself this. If today were your last day on earth, are you absolutely sure where your soul would go? Most people believe they're safe until it's too late. The truth is, judgment doesn't begin after death. It's already being written by the choices you make right now. What if there are clear warning signs you've been ignoring? Signs that don't scream, but quietly follow your habits, your thoughts, and your actions. In this video, you'll discover why understanding these warning signals can change everything about how you live today and what happens after your final breath. What if the reason so many are shocked after death is because no one told them the truth in time? These 8 warning signs aren't about fear. They're about awareness, correction, and redemption before it's too late. Have you ever felt a strange emptiness, guilt without explanation, or the sense that something isn't right spiritually? Stay until the end, because each sign builds toward clarity, not condemnation. Knowing these warnings now gives you the power to reflect, adjust, and choose a different path while there's still time. Don't wait for judgment to understand what you could realize today. Before we continue, take 1 second to subscribe, like the video, and stay until the end. One of these signs might hit closer to home than you expect, and you don't want to miss it. The first warning sign is not something shocking or extreme, and that's why so many people don't notice it. A life without true repentance usually looks normal from the outside. The person lives their life, works, laughs, believes in God, maybe even prays sometimes, and feels like everything is fine. There's no obvious rebellion, no big crisis, but true repentance is not just feeling bad after doing something wrong. It's not just saying, "I'm sorry," and moving on like nothing happened. True repentance means deciding to change direction. It means realizing, I can't keep living like this, and actually doing something about it. Many people confuse regret with repentance. Regret is feeling bad because of the consequences. Repentance is wanting to change, even if no one is watching, and even if it costs you something. In everyday life, this sign shows up in very common situations. Someone lies, feels guilty for a moment, asks God for forgiveness, and then lies again the next time it's convenient. Someone treats people badly, apologizes, but never changes their behavior. Someone knows certain habits are wrong, promises to stop, but keeps going back to them again and again. They tell themselves, "At least I feel bad about it," as if guilt alone fixes the problem. Over time, saying sorry becomes automatic, like a routine. There's no real effort to change, no new decisions, no new actions. It's like saying you want to get healthy, but never changing what you eat or how you live. This creates a very dangerous comfort zone. People start believing that as long as they acknowledge their mistakes, everything is fine. They say things like, "Nobody is perfect," "God knows my heart," or "I'll change later." These thoughts sound harmless, but they slowly kill urgency. Change keeps getting postponed. Today becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next year. And without realizing it, the person builds a life where repentance is just words, not action. The heart starts getting used to sin instead of fighting it. As this pattern continues, guilt doesn't disappear all at once. It slowly fades. Things that once bothered the conscience start to feel normal. What used to feel wrong now feels acceptable. A person may even joke about behaviors they once felt ashamed of. This doesn't happen because they became free, but because their heart became numb. It's like touching something hot over and over until you stop feeling the burn. The lack of discomfort feels like peace, but it's not real peace. It's warning signs going quiet. Another danger of false repentance is self-deception. People truly believe they are okay spiritually because they know the right words, believe the right things, and feel emotional at the right moments. But belief without change leads nowhere. It's like knowing the right road, but never walking on it. This is why many people are shocked later. They didn't think they were far from God. They thought they were close, simply because they felt bad when they did wrong. A practical way to use this message is to turn repentance into action, not just emotion. Instead of only saying, "I'm sorry," ask, "What needs to change?" If you keep lying, start choosing honesty even when it's uncomfortable. If you keep hurting people, take responsibility and change how you speak and act. Set clear boundaries, seek accountability, make repentance visible through behavior, not promises. True repentance is proven over time, not in moments. This sign matters because it's not about being perfect, it's about direction. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone chooses to change. A life without true repentance feels safe, calm, and normal, right until the moment it's too late. And that's why recognizing this sign now is not about fear, but about opportunity. Because as long as there is breath, there is still time to turn around. The second warning sign is rejecting the truth when it becomes uncomfortable. This one is especially dangerous because it doesn't look like hatred toward God, it looks like avoidance. Truth often shows up as a feeling inside, a moment of conviction, a message that challenges the way you live, or advice you don't want to hear. Instead of stopping to reflect, many people instantly push it away. In daily life, this looks like hearing something that points out a wrong behavior and immediately saying, "That's too extreme, that doesn't apply to me," or "People are too judgmental." The problem is not disagreement, the problem is resistance. Truth usually makes us uncomfortable before it sets us free. And when someone keeps rejecting it, they slowly train their mind to ignore warning signs. This happens in very common situations. Someone hears a message about forgiveness but refuses to forgive because they feel justified in their anger. Someone hears about honesty but keeps lying because telling the truth would cost them something. Someone feels convicted about a habit but says, "Everyone does this," to silence their conscience. Over time, the heart learns how to protect itself from discomfort. The truth is no longer examined, it's dismissed. And the more often this happens, the easier it becomes to ignore truth altogether. The real danger is that truth doesn't stop being true just because it's ignored. Rejecting it doesn't remove consequences, it only delays awareness. People start choosing comfort over correction. They prefer messages that make them feel good instead of messages that make them grow. They surround themselves with voices that agree with them and avoid anything that challenges them. This creates a loop where truth feels offensive, correction feels like attack, and growth feels unnecessary. As this pattern continues, lies start to feel normal. What once felt wrong now feels acceptable because it's familiar. The person doesn't think they are rejecting truth, they think they are protecting their peace. But peace built on avoidance is fragile. Deep down, something feels off, but instead of facing it, they distract themselves with noise, entertainment, or busyness. The truth keeps knocking, but the door stays closed. A practical way to break this cycle is to slow down when discomfort appears. Instead of instantly defending yourself, ask, "Why does this bother me?" When something challenges your lifestyle, don't run from it. Examine it honestly. Ask yourself if the discomfort is pointing to an area that needs change. Truth is not an enemy. It's a mirror. Using this awareness daily helps keep the heart soft and open instead of guarded and resistant. This sign matters because rejecting truth doesn't happen in one big decision. It happens in small moments, small excuses, and small delays. And over time, those small choices build a life where truth feels distant and judgment feels shocking. Recognizing this now gives you the chance to listen, reflect, and respond while there is still time to change direction. The third warning sign is pride, especially the kind that hides behind good behavior and good intentions. This pride doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't say, "I'm better than everyone." It says, "I'm not that bad." It convinces people they are doing fine just because they are not doing the worst things. In everyday life, this looks like someone who compares themselves to others to feel safe. They look at people who lie more, cheat more, hurt more, and say, "At least I'm not like that." Pride makes people measure their lives by the lowest standard instead of the right one. They stop asking, "Am I changing?" and start asking, "Am I worse than someone else?" This mindset feels comforting, but it slowly shuts down self-reflection. When someone believes they are already okay, they don't feel the need to look deeper, and that's where growth quietly stops. This kind of pride also shows up when people refuse correction. Any feedback feels like an attack, any warning feels exaggerated, any challenge feels unnecessary. In daily situations, this might look like someone getting defensive when a friend points out a bad habit, or someone brushing off advice by saying, "That's just how I am." Pride protects the ego at all costs. Instead of listening, the person explains. Instead of changing, they justify. Over time, they build a wall around their behavior, convincing themselves that no adjustment is needed. The heart slowly closes, not because the truth disappeared, but because pride refused to let it in. Another way pride shows itself is through selective obedience. People choose which parts of truth they want to follow and ignore the rest. They obey what feels easy and avoid what feels uncomfortable. In real life, this looks like being kind in public but cruel in private, being honest when it benefits them but dishonest when it costs them, forgiving small offenses but holding grudges over big ones. Pride says, "I'll change where I want, but not where it hurts." Deal. This creates a false sense of control. The person believes they are in charge of their growth, but real transformation requires surrender, and pride resists surrender more than anything else. Pride also keeps people spiritually stagnant because it replaces humility. Humility says, "I still need to grow." Pride says, "I've grown enough." Once someone believes they have arrived, they stop moving. This is why pride is so dangerous. It doesn't feel sinful. It feels confident. It feels stable. But nothing grows in still water. Over time, pride disconnects a person from grace because grace flows toward humility. Without humility, repentance feels unnecessary, and without repentance, change never comes. A practical way to use this warning is to practice honest humility every day. This means regularly asking yourself hard questions instead of comfortable ones. Where am I making excuses? Where am I avoiding change? Where do I get defensive? Learn to listen without interrupting. Learn to receive correction without explaining yourself. Surround yourself with people who are honest, not just supportive, Pride shrinks when truth is welcomed. Humility keeps the heart open, flexible, and ready to grow. This sign matters because pride blinds people slowly. It doesn't push them away from God suddenly. It keeps them standing still while thinking they are moving forward. And judgment doesn't measure intentions, comparisons, or excuses. It measures truth. Recognizing pride now is not about shame, it's about clarity. Because humility opens the door to change, and change is always possible while there is still time. The fourth warning sign is a numb conscience. And this is one of the most dangerous signs because most people don't even realize it's happening. A numb conscience doesn't mean someone feels no emotions at all. It means they no longer feel disturbed by things that should bother them. At first, when someone does something wrong, there is discomfort, there is guilt. There is an inner voice saying, "This isn't right." But when that voice is ignored again and again, it starts to get quieter. In everyday life, this looks very normal. A person tells a small lie and feels bad, but nothing happens. Later, they lie again and feel less bad. Over time, lying becomes easy. The same thing happens with anger, jealousy, dishonesty, bitterness, and harmful habits. What once caused discomfort now feels neutral. The danger is that people mistake this numbness for growth or strength. They say, "It doesn't bother me anymore," without realizing that what really happened is that their conscience stopped reacting. This is not peace. This is sensitivity dying. And when sensitivity is gone, warning signs stop working. This numbness doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from small compromises repeated over time. In daily routines, it looks like watching things you once avoided, laughing at things you once found wrong, or justifying behavior you once promised you'd never accept. At first, the heart resists, then it adapts. People start saying, "It's not that serious," or "Everyone does this," or "I deserve this." These excuses slowly silence the conscience. The problem is not that the behavior changed suddenly, it's that the standard changed quietly. When the standard lowers, the heart follows. The person doesn't feel like they are moving away from God. They feel normal, comfortable, stable. That's why this sign is so dangerous. There's no alarm, no crisis, just a slow drift. And drifting feels safe until you look up and realize how far you've gone. Another danger of a numb conscience is that it changes how people treat others. When the heart becomes dull, empathy weakens. Hurting someone doesn't feel as heavy. Using people feels normal. Selfish choices feel justified. In real life, this can show up as being harsh with words, careless with promises, or indifferent to the pain of others. The person may still believe they are a good person, but their actions slowly tell a different story. They don't feel convicted, so they assume everything is fine. But a quiet conscience is not a clean conscience. It's a warning sign that something inside is no longer responding the way it should. Judgment doesn't measure how calm you felt. It measures what you became. A practical way to use this warning is to start paying attention to discomfort again. When something feels wrong, don't rush to silence it. Sit with it. Ask why it's there. Examine what you are consuming, what you are normalizing, and what you are excusing. Protect your conscience by choosing honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Choose humility when pride feels easier. Choose correction when avoidance feels safer. A sensitive conscience is not weakness, it's guidance. It's one of the greatest protections a person can have. The heart that still feels conviction is a heart that can still change. And the reason this sign matters so much is because numbness doesn't feel dangerous. It feels peaceful. But peace without truth is just silence before consequence. The fifth warning sign is a lack of spiritual growth, and this one is dangerous because it hides behind time. Many people believe that if enough years pass, growth automatically happens, but time alone does not change anyone. Growth requires intention, effort, and honesty. A person can believe in God for years and still remain exactly the same inside. In daily life, this looks very common. Someone says they have faith, but they still react with the same anger, hold the same grudges, lie the same way, and avoid responsibility the same way they did years ago. Nothing improves, nothing softens, nothing matures. Faith becomes something they say they have, not something that shapes how they live. This sign is not about being perfect, it's about direction. Growth means you are slowly becoming more patient, more humble, more honest, more willing to change. When years pass and nothing shifts, that is not stability, that is stagnation. Many people don't notice this sign because stagnation feels comfortable. There's no pressure, no challenge, no discomfort. In everyday routines, this looks like avoiding prayer, avoiding reflection, avoiding difficult conversations, and avoiding accountability. The person says, "I believe," but there's no hunger to learn, no desire to go deeper, no effort to improve. They repeat the same cycles year after year and call it normal. The problem is that what doesn't grow eventually dies. A lack of growth doesn't mean someone suddenly rejected God. It means they slowly stopped pursuing change. Comfort replaced commitment. Familiar habits replaced discipline. And because nothing dramatic happens, the warning is ignored. Another danger of this sign is self-deception. People assume they are fine because they haven't gotten worse. But not getting worse is not the same as getting better. In real life, this looks like someone saying, "At least I'm not doing those things anymore," while ignoring the fact that they also aren't growing in love, patience, or self-control. They settle into a neutral state. No progress, no hunger, no fire. Judgment doesn't measure how long someone believed. It measures what belief produced. Growth is evidence that something real is happening inside. When there is no growth, it's a sign that faith became passive instead of active. A practical way to use this warning is to honestly measure your progress instead of your time. Ask yourself, what has changed in your life over the last year? Are you quicker to forgive? Are you more honest than before? Are you more aware of your weaknesses? Are you making better choices even when it's hard? Growth shows up in small daily decisions. It's choosing patience instead of reaction. It's choosing truth instead of excuses. It's choosing discipline instead of comfort. Growth is slow, but it's visible. And when there is no growth at all, it's not a small issue. It's a clear warning sign. Because a life that stays the same for too long is not moving forward. And standing still spiritually is still moving away. The sixth warning sign is loving the world more than righteousness. And this one is especially tricky because it doesn't feel wrong at first. It feels normal. It feels practical. It feels like just living life. Loving the world doesn't mean doing obviously bad things all the time. It means slowly placing comfort, pleasure, success, money, image, and approval above truth. In everyday life, this looks like making choices based on what feels good instead of what is right. It looks like avoiding hard truths because they might cost you relationships, opportunities, or status. People still believe in God, but God becomes one part of their life instead of the center of it. Faith is kept, but only as long as it doesn't interfere with personal desires. This sign grows quietly because the world constantly rewards this behavior. When you chase success, people praise you. When you chase pleasure, you feel temporary happiness. When you chase approval, you feel accepted. Over time, these rewards train the heart to love the world system more than righteousness. The danger is not that God is rejected openly, but that he is slowly replaced as the main priority. This love for the world shows up clearly in daily decisions. People compromise small values to gain bigger rewards. They stay silent when they should speak. They agree when they should stand firm. They hide their faith to avoid being uncomfortable. In real life, this can look like choosing money over integrity at work, choosing popularity over honesty with friends, or choosing entertainment over reflection and growth. At first, the compromises feel small and justified. It's not that serious. I need this. This is just how things work. But every compromise shifts the heart a little more. The person starts measuring life by comfort instead of truth. What benefits them becomes more important than what shapes them. Over time, righteousness feels restrictive, and the world feels freeing, even though the opposite is true. Another danger of this sign is divided loyalty. The heart is pulled in two directions. People want the benefits of faith and the pleasures of the world at the same time. This creates constant inner tension. They chase fulfillment through success, relationships, possessions, and experiences, but nothing fully satisfies. There's always something missing, so they chase more. More money, more attention, more distraction. The world promises fulfillment, but never delivers it fully. And instead of recognizing the problem, people assume they just haven't reached the next level yet. This keeps them running on a cycle that never ends. The heart becomes busy but empty, active but restless, full but unsatisfied. A practical way to use this warning is to honestly examine what you love most. Look at where your time goes, where your energy goes, and what you protect at all costs. What are you most afraid of losing? What excites you the most? What disappoints you the deepest? These answers reveal your priorities. Loving righteousness doesn't mean rejecting life or joy. It means choosing what lasts over what fades. It means making decisions based on truth, even when it costs comfort. When righteousness becomes the priority, clarity replaces confusion, and peace replaces restlessness. This sign matters because what you love shapes who you become. And when the world becomes the greatest love, judgment doesn't feel real until it's unavoidable. The seventh warning sign is refusing to forgive and holding on to bitterness, and this one feels justified to most people, which is why it becomes so dangerous. Unforgiveness often starts with real pain. Someone was betrayed, disrespected, abandoned, lied to, or deeply hurt, and the wound was never properly healed. Instead of processing the pain, people protect it. They replay the moment in their mind, relive the emotions, and slowly allow the hurt to shape how they see the world. In everyday life, this looks like constantly bringing up the past, feeling anger when a certain name is mentioned, or closing the heart to anyone who reminds them of what happened. People tell themselves they are being strong, cautious, or realistic, but what's really happening is that bitterness is taking root. Forgiveness feels like weakness, like letting the other person win, so resentment feels safer. The problem is that unforgiveness doesn't lock the offender in prison. It locks the one who refuses to forgive. Over time, bitterness becomes part of the personality. It affects tone of voice, reactions, relationships, and decisions. The person may not even remember when joy felt light or peace felt natural, because anger has become familiar. As bitterness grows, it starts changing how people treat others, even those who never hurt them. A wounded heart becomes suspicious. Kindness feels fake. Love feels risky. In daily life, this shows up as pushing people away, assuming bad intentions, or responding harshly to small issues. Someone cuts you off in traffic and rage explodes. Someone disagrees with you and it feels like an attack. The heart is constantly on guard. This is not protection, it's exhaustion. The person believes they are staying strong, but they are actually carrying a weight they were never meant to carry. Unforgiveness slowly hardens the heart. Compassion fades, empathy shrinks, and when empathy is gone, cruelty becomes easier to justify. This is why unforgiveness is not just an emotional issue, it's a spiritual one. Judgment looks at the condition of the heart, not the story used to defend it. Pain explains bitterness, but it doesn't excuse it. Holding on to unforgiveness keeps the wound alive, and the longer it stays alive, the more it defines who you become. Another danger of unforgiveness is identity distortion. People stop seeing themselves as someone who was hurt and start seeing themselves as someone defined by hurt. Their pain becomes their story, their shield, and their excuse. In real life, this looks like constantly identifying as the victim, using past trauma to justify present behavior, and rejecting growth because pain feels like proof. This is just how I am now, they say. But pain was never meant to be a permanent identity. When bitterness becomes identity, healing feels like betrayal of the past. Forgiveness feels like denial of what happened. But forgiveness is not pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is refusing to let the hurt control your future. Unforgiveness keeps people emotionally and spiritually stuck in moments that are long gone. The past continues to decide reactions, relationships, and choices. This is why so many people feel trapped without understanding why. They moved on physically, but not internally. A practical way to use this warning is to reframe forgiveness correctly. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It doesn't mean trust is instantly restored or boundaries disappear. It means you choose to release control over revenge, resentment, and replaying the offense. Start by acknowledging the pain honestly instead of minimizing it. Then make a conscious decision to stop feeding it. This may require time, prayer, reflection, and sometimes help, but it always begins with choice. Forgiveness frees the one who forgives more than anyone else. It restores clarity, softens the heart, and reopens the door to peace. This sign matters because unforgiveness feels justified, logical, and safe, but it slowly poisons the soul. And judgment doesn't ask how much you were hurt, it asks what you did with the hurt. The 8th warning sign is delay, and this may be the most common and most dangerous sign of all because it feels reasonable. It doesn't feel sinful, rebellious, or risky. It feels logical. People tell themselves they will change later, take faith seriously later, fix their habits later, forgive later, or grow later. In everyday life, this shows up in simple thoughts like, now is not the right time. I need to get my life together first. Or, I still have plenty of time. Delay makes people feel calm because it removes urgency. Nothing feels wrong enough to act on today. But delay is not neutral. Delay is a decision. Every time someone postpones change, they are choosing to stay the same. And staying the same is not harmless, because life keeps moving. Habits get stronger, hearts get harder, patterns become deeper. The danger of delay is that it convinces people they are in control of time. But time is not owned, promised, or guaranteed. Many people don't reject change. They just keep postponing it until the opportunity quietly passes. Delay often disguises itself as preparation. People say they need to learn more, feel more ready, or reach a better moment. But the truth is, readiness rarely comes before action. In daily life, this looks like someone knowing what they need to change, but waiting for motivation instead of choosing discipline. They wait to feel different before acting different. They wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. Meanwhile, life fills the space with distractions. Work, entertainment, responsibilities, and stress keep the mind busy enough to avoid reflection. Delay works because it feels harmless. No one feels guilty for planning to change later, but later slowly becomes never. And the heart gets used to putting important things off. Over time, conviction loses its strength. What once felt urgent now feels distant. The person still believes change is good, just not necessary right now. This is how delay quietly steals years without resistance. Another danger of delay is false confidence. People believe they will always have another chance, another warning, another opportunity, another wake-up call. But life does not move in guaranteed cycles. In real life, people plan to apologize someday but never do. They plan to fix relationships, but time runs out. They plan to get serious about faith after a certain age, after success, after settling down. But judgment doesn't ask what someone planned to do. It asks what they actually did. Delay feels safe because nothing immediate happens. There's no visible consequence at first, but delay compounds. Small delays turn into long-term neglect. Neglect turns into distance. Distance turns into disconnection. And when the moment finally comes where action is no longer possible, shock replaces calm. That shock is what many experience, not because they were never warned, but because they kept postponing the response. A practical way to use this warning is to treat urgency as a gift, not a threat. When you feel the need to change, act on it quickly. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start small, but start now. If forgiveness is needed, begin the process today. If honesty is required, choose it in the next decision. If growth is missing, create one daily habit that moves you forward. Delay loses power when action replaces intention. The truth is, change is rarely comfortable, but delay is often more costly. This sign matters because delay feels peaceful, calm, and reasonable right up until the moment it's too late. And the greatest tragedy is not judgment itself, but realizing that change was always possible and time was spent waiting instead of choosing. As you reach the end of this message, understand this clearly. These signs were not shared to scare you, shame you, or condemn you. They were shared to wake you up while there is still time. Awareness is a gift. Clarity is an opportunity. And the fact that you are still listening means change is still possible. Every sign you heard points to one truth. Direction matters more than excuses, intentions, or delays. No one is too far gone, but no one changes by accident. What matters is what you do next, not what you've done before. If this message spoke to you, don't ignore it. Don't scroll away and promise yourself you'll think about it later. Take one simple step right now. Reflect. Choose honesty. Choose change. And if you want more messages like this that challenge, awaken, and guide you, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the greatest mistake is not being warned, it's being warned and doing nothing.